First story. How to handle lack of effort for WW. Married nearly 20 years with a teenage child. I work, she does not. Our marriage has been largely sexless for many years due to her lack of desire, which I thought was generalized and now know was really a lack of desire for me. D-Day was a little less than 3 months ago. I discovered WWZA and one-time PA by checking her phone messages. She had hooked up with an old boyfriend while away on a trip with friends, all women she has known her whole life. The ex-BF lives near the woman they were visiting, but that had not been disclosed to me. My WW's behavior changed after that trip, but it took me a while to see it. That was the only time they were physical. They did not fuck, but she did blow him a couple of times in one night and they kissed. What followed was a couple of months of intense online sexting, video sex and video chats, calls, etc., via a messenger app. They stayed up late on many occasions helping each other get off. She bought new vibrators to use with him. The language was as vulgar as you can imagine, and it was a nearly everyday interaction. They did not express love, only a deep and long-term friendship that was rooted in trust, etc. I read all the messages because she didn't delete anything, and I made sure to do my research before confronting her. It took several days for her to come out of the affair fog and understand how badly she had fucked up. She finally deleted everything, blocked his number and social media accounts, etc. She was genuinely sorry and doing most of the right things to show me that she was committed to fixing things. There was a short period of hysterical bonding sex. She has maintained throughout all of this that neither ever intended to change their situations. There was never a thought to leave me, etc. We went through all of the expected and excruciating conversations. That all lasted about 5 or 6 weeks, and then a few weeks ago it seemed to stop. She does not handle pressure well. We have a lot of other things we are dealing with as a family that would be stressful on their own. But she has now become annoyed when I press with questions related to her affair. She has stopped initiating touch or contact. She makes few, if any, gestures to show that she is remorseful, that she loves me, or that she wants me. It's like I have become the enemy again, but a friendly enemy. This feels very much like the way she treated me for years before her affair. Is this a normal milestone for some people in the AR process? It's obviously not conducive to real recovery and reconciliation, but I'm wondering if others have experienced this and how it was handled. I don't want to throw in the towel on my marriage or AR in general. I also don't want to have a false expectation of how the course can be corrected if this is an indication that AR is doomed in my marriage. Any and all advice or opinions will be appreciated. In my therapy experience, yes, it essentially became the enemy and heard 10 years of things that bothered her about me, when just a few months before she said I was perfect. She didn't like to hear my opinion about the affair or her behaviors. She decided to rewrite our history. She was very verbally and emotionally abusive to me, but there has been absolutely nothing like going back to the way we were treating each other before. I don't think there honestly can be if the reality of the affair is present with both people. Update. I can't compete with AP. Long post. First, I'm not bashing myself. I'm better than this guy in almost every way. He may be, objectively, slightly better looking than me, but not by much. Otherwise, I'm more successful in my career by a wide margin. Am a better husband than he is to his wife. Have achieved more accolades, and have certainly invested more into my wife than he ever did. For quick background, I, late 46M, caught my WW. Slightly later 41F having an affair with her former college boyfriend FWB from over 20 years ago. D-Day was several months ago. The affair started after they had not seen or spoken to each other in about 20 years. My wife went on a trip to visit female friends from high school, and, unbeknownst to me, this guy lived right around the corner from the woman hosting the little reunion. They had a group of people over one night. and my wife had so much fun catching up with the old BF and FWB that she convinced him to come back over the next night and hang out again. Later that night, they kissed and she blew him in the backyard. The affair became virtual after that, including the nastiest texts I've ever read. Tons of explicit photos, many video calls at all hours, etc. I discovered it all in a messaging app on her iPad and confronted her that night. She ended it immediately that night with a text at my insistence. Then 2 or 3 days followed with me finding various things she had hidden away or kept, such as his number. After around day 3, she seemed to snap out of the fog and start working hard to keep me. It seemed genuine, and I believe I know 99% of the full story. But here's where I'm struggling. After a month or 2 of that, she has backed off. She's still completely open with her devices, says the right things, and I'm confident she's NC with the AP. She has not, however, been proactive at all in the intimacy department. It's important to note that we had a sexless marriage for many, many years prior to her affair. This was her choice and I suffered rejection after rejection for more than a decade. AP brought her sexuality back to life according to some of the texts she sent him. When they dated and were hooking up, things were never serious. They had a crazy connection that she loved having rekindled during their affair. One of the conditions of that I said early on was that we would not have a sexless marriage going forward. If she couldn't want me at least as much as she wanted her AP, then our wouldn't work. My wife and I had a wonderful sex life early on, so it's not impossible to find that again. And she has insisted that she does want me more than she wanted him. But sex is as rare these past few months as it was before. She's stopped almost all proactive intimacy towards me. It's like she's doing the bare minimum of being NC, keeping devices and passwords available to me, telling me she loves me, etc. But I simply can't compete with the AP in the ways that brought out the slut, her self-used word with him, in her. I'm no longer novel. We've been married for nearly 20 years and have a kid. We live life together. Life is often unsexy, it's hard, and it requires effort. She lives with my flaws. I'm human. I have fucked up in big and small ways over time. He was an escape from real life for her. My WW can't seem to compartmentalize things enough to escape with me like I want her to do. I have not asked for advice in this post because, while well-meaning, I don't think the standard advice would be very helpful. There's so much more context. I've tried being romantic over the years, at least as best as I can. I've tried being clear about my needs and asking for what I need. I've tried to back off and let her come to me. I've done all the heavy lifting. I am the sole breadwinner, and do far more than my share of the chores. But I can't compete with the fantasy. I can't compete with the fun and frivolous memories of her youth, and the ease of hooking up with someone comfortable, but without ties or obligations. And because of that, I am afraid she will be unable to deliver on a core piece of what I need for real reconciliation. You can't make another person want you. I can be the best version of myself possible, but that doesn't mean she'll want me. So here I am, doing my best to reconcile but becoming more suspicious by the day that my wife's version of will be going back to the way things were. And that's probably the scariest outcome of all as far as I'm concerned. As for advice, on second thought, it would be helpful to hear from anyone who has been through a similar situation. I'll take it from WPs or BPs if they've gone through this stage. I feel this intensely. I gave everything and got relatively less in return. She steadfastly refused to give me what I wanted and needed most. But this guy who has contributed nothing to her life, besides being an easy fling in their younger years. She sees him for the first time in decades and turns into a porn star. If a friend told me about his wife what I just wrote, I'd tell him to leave because his WW doesn't love him. That's the other bitch of this. She's not a bad person. She has shown me love in many ways over the years. She's a great mom. And for many reasons I choose to stay married. But I absolutely deserve to be treated better than this, just as you deserve to be treated better. Here's hoping for better days for us both. That's a really good question. I'm not sure that she's fully processed any of it yet. I think she's trying more to rug sweep and not really deal with the issues within herself. Facing that reality will be hard for her, and she was focused early on my needs. Now that she's backed off that, she seems to be back to normal more than anything. Guilt and regret are there, I think. I'm not sure about remorse. I think she's trying to protect herself from some of that. Update. Understanding WW's limitations in R. I have posted before on the subject of effort from the WP, and several posts comments from others have recently hit on this subject. One stood out to me yesterday in response to a post from a WW trying to understood from BP's what is needed. Kudos to her for that effort. It got me thinking more about my own situation. Several months past D-Day with my WW. About a month of hysterical bonding followed, which then simmered down to the bare essentials. She is fully NC with her AP, open device policy, etc. But she has not kept her word to follow through on proactive things I need in the R process. In some cases, these are the same things I needed before her affair but were missing then. Mainly, our marriage was sexless for years before she had her IAPA with a former acquaintance. I've told her repeatedly that I need her to put the same effort into me and our marriage that she put into her affair, including and especially intimacy. She makes promises but doesn't follow through. That's what leads me to the limitations thought. She has ADHD, which she's never used as an excuse for her affair. But the traits of that condition do make people more susceptible to the circumstances and acting on an affair. I think there is a personality type that's not fully ADHD but has similar traits. The situation normally goes like this. Married and adult life get boring compared to being young, single, and carefree. They lose interest in their partner and marriage because they are bored. Attraction hits with a new person and they get the dopamine spike of NRE. This leads to the energy and motivation needed for them to put effort into that relationship because it gives them the excitement they seek. Affair ends due to some reason. In my case, I discovered their texts. Hysterical bonding ensues because they are afraid and motivated by the energy spike needed to secure their marriage, etc. Things settle in 2 to 6 months and they become bored again. They probably wouldn't characterize it that way, but their body is no longer being pushed by dopamine or fear. They stop making an effort. I'd love to hear people's thoughts in general. To me, this is no excuse for a WP to stop making an effort. IC and other work should be done on their part to get over their natural tendencies. They must learn to put their partner first. But we have no control over what they do or chose not to do. Thoughts welcome. It affirms to me that ADHD should not be used as an excuse for her behavior. As for your questions, the answers are mostly yes. I have not been perfect in the months after D-Day. My moods have swung up and down, and I've had plenty of time when I didn't want to be around her, much less close. But on the whole, I've been far more empathetic and understanding than I would have thought I could be. I'm doing my work, much more than she is doing. I've done IC but left MC up to her. She's done neither. Update. Comparisons 8 months from D-Day. It's been 8 months since I discovered my wife's IAPA with her former boyfriend FWB from 20 plus years ago. That story is in my list of posts for reference. Today I'm thinking a lot about comparisons. Our marriage is probably better than it was, but our sex life remains non-existent. She says she wants it, but always has an excuse as to why she doesn't want it in the moment. The effect of that has been my own constant self-comparisons to her AP. She gave it up completely for him at the snap of a finger, but still can't make her actions match her words when it comes to me. I know all the rationalizations about why that has nothing to do with me, but I do think it has to be me to some extent. I'm getting older. I'm not in the shape I used to be in. I'm working crazy hard for our family. Her AP didn't seem like that attractive to me, but she certainly thought he was and offered praise and compliments that she never offered me. I'm not sure if this is a vent, depression post, or if I'm seeking some help and understanding. Comments are always welcome. Second story. I hope this is not too long. Am I overreacting? I think my wife is cheating on me. About a year ago, my wife started working really crazy hours. I wake up at 5 and she has already left and she is not back until 7:30. She also takes food from home, so she really does not get a lunch break. She complains she just had a lot to do. About 9 months ago, she decided she wanted to lose weight. My wife was never a slim girl, but I thought, good for her. So, no more alcohol or heavy foods. She started eating vegetables and lean meats and such. After she lost some weight, she said she needed to exercise, which she never did before. She started running and now she goes running every night. Then, she came home from work and started complaining about her clothes, that they were not modern and looked outdated. So my very frugal wife now buys clothes weekly. New trendy pants and yoga pants, expensive dress, new underwear and socks. I literally had to throw away socks and underwear for her to go and buy new ones. Then, she started going out for her work, not too much but definitely more than before. At that point, her behavior toward me changed. She is cold and distant and she says and does things to make me feel bad. I still did not suspect much, but a few weeks ago, she told me she might be going on an overnight trip. The night before I asked her if she was going and she said she still might. That was weird. Wouldn't she need to pack a bag? Next day, I receive a text message that she was going out for a work dinner. Red flags went off. She was supposed to go on a trip. Anyway, she calls me at about 6 that she is going to dinner. Hours pass and she is not coming home. 10 comes and I am pissed at this point. I check a tracker she carries with her, and it went offline 2 minutes after she called me. I had no way of knowing where she is. Finally, she comes home and her excuse was that they were talking about work. I don't have access to any of her devices, but I snooped into her side of our home computer and saw that she reinstalled Instagram. When I was able to check, it was scrubbed. No likes, not following anyone, no messages. But I have a suspicion about a guy. His heritage is from another country. All the accounts that Insta recommended to her were from that country. I really do not know what to do. I cannot confirm my suspicions, and when I tell her I suspect, she says I am crazy. So, am I? Am I overreacting? The tracker is an AirTag he uses for her work bag. I am not tracking her. We both have all AirTags in our phones because we also use them for luggage, etc. I need to respond to some doubts and add some information. About the phone. A year ago she told me that the company she works for asked her to change her password to something really complicated, and that she needs to change her password often. I have no access to her iPhone whatsoever. 3 months after she told me about the password, she had to give me her phone because we were lost in her car and she wanted me to help with the directions. While I was looking, I noticed she had an email address that I did not know anything about. I confronted her about it and she told me it was just for junk. I looked through it, but again it was scrubbed. No emails, no history, nothing. I mean, if it was for junk, why was there no junk in it? I may be naive, but I just let it go. Strangely enough, my wife has made sure that I can access her text messages, although she hardly has any interactions there other than family. So I think that she probably uses another messaging service, because even her friends are suspiciously absent from her text messages. My wife has a credit card that it is entirely to her name. I have no access whatsoever, so if she needs to charge anything, it will be to that card. I do not yet want to confront my wife. I am not emotionally ready to go through with it. Also, I know her and I know she will deny everything unless I have more proof. That is just hard to find. I think I need to sit tight and wait until I can get more proof or clues. Our relationship before was so much better. She was more affectionate and loving. I would only want to divorce her if she is cheating. If this was just a phase, I would try to work through it. If not for me, for my daughter that worships the ground my husband walks on. I am kind of losing hope that it is something fixable though. For those trying to shame me saying I am jealous because she lost the weight or whatever. I gained weight during my pregnancy. But 10 years ago, I committed to a very healthy lifestyle. I lost all the weight and then some, and I am still fit and bulk. On the contrary, my wife kept gaining weight. I did not complain or put her down and did not hold it against her. I loved her for who she was. When she decided to lose the weight, I cheered her on and was happy for her, because I thought he wanted to take better care of her health. I now wonder what her motivation really was.